Poštovani gledaoci, dobar dan. Vi gledate još jedno izdanje emisije Pola sata Demostata. Danas smo ugostili vojnog atašeja Francuske u Republici Srbiji, pukovnika Pjera Dežea. Good morning and welcome.
Good morning. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to have this interview with you and Demostat to speak about the French position regarding NATO and regarding our cooperation with the Serbian armed forces. Thank you very much.
Thank you for coming. And let's start with army cooperation with Serbia from the side of France. What area of cooperation are you most proud of?
This is a very interesting question. I should first of all notice that we have a long-term relationship with the Serbian army. I don't know if you remind it, maybe not, but I discovered that, for example, the first Ministry of Defense in Serbia was a French officer. His name was Hippolyte Mondin, and he was there in the late 80s, 1866, something like that, and he spent almost 9 years as a Minister of Defense. But the cooperation between our armies, of course, reached its peak during the First World War, and then the French army, how the French army supported the Serbian army to recover from the so-called Albanian Golgotha, and to be retrained, equipped, and of course to gain victory during the First World War. We have to take into consideration that the victory in Belgrade or in Serbia, particularly against the Bulgarian armed forces, has accelerated the peace in the end of the war in 1918. So it's very important, and we have a lot of testimony, of course, the famous monument to France. Then I would like also to mention Milunka Savic, who was awarded with the French Legion of Honor, which is a big honor. And then, of course, the city of Belgrade was also awarded with the Legion of Honor. And there are only seven cities in the world which have this medal. But it was not only fighting together, but it was also educating the future elites of Serbia. And these young students or pupils who were withdrawing together with the Serbian army, were after that were educated in France, particularly in Corsica, in South France, and so. And I discovered when I started when I arrived here, that there were thousands of Serbians who lived in the same buildings, the very same buildings I lived when I started my military career. It was in Josier, and I suddenly discovered that it was the same room in where I was. Anyway, but we are not. So it's important to have to have this common history in order to create a strong ties between our two armies, and I could continue like that. And for that, I think that is important. And I organized, for example, last year an event with a conference on Franchet d'Espéré, Maréchal Franchet d'Espéré, and starting with a film telling the story of a Serbian family who found his ancestor, who died from war and was buried in France in a French military. So you see that the big story is mixed with a little history. But this is the basis on which we can build on our cooperation, because cooperation is not only, of course, history, but also is, as I told you, is to educate the future elites, to train the future elites in order to have better interoperability with our armed forces. So what we do, of course, we offer some places in the War College, which is very demanding, and I would like to highlight that the current trainee or the current officer, which is in the War College, had no knowledge in French language, and he make all efforts to become almost fluent. And I have to say that in this interview, because I think it's he was very involved and wanted to reach something. And of course, we offer some course in French, because it's most of our education system is based on French. But I know it's not so easy for the soldiers or officers here in Serbia. We maintain also high level discussions. I would like to mention that, for example, in 2023, the General Mojsilovic, the chief of the Joint Staff, was received by his counterpart, the French General Burkhardt, Thierry Burkhardt in France. And of course, we have at the Defense Policy Department regular discussions, regular meetings, in particular between the head of these departments or the head of the armaments department. But the most important, which concerns France, is of course the cooperation in the armament area. I don't know if you know it, but we have a lot of the Serbian armed forces use a lot of French equipment. That means, for example, radars with Thales, or of course Airbus helicopters, and last but not least, of course, the future aircraft Rafal. And speaking about Rafal, it's of course very important, I would say, a commercial issue. And we are very proud of that. But it's not only that, it's a strategic turning point, because Serbia and France will work together for the 40 years to come. And then we will develop together a common operational vision. We will exchange experiences in the field of aeronautique. We will develop interoperability in this field, and that means that we will continue to work together more and more, and then Serbia will become closer not only to France but also to the Western countries. And it's really we find that it's a very turning point, and it's a very important point in our cooperation.
Your defense attaché that comes from a NATO ally. How do you see NATO today?
NATO today, it has offered or is offering a safe environment. If you look at the history, when NATO was founded, it was founded 75 years ago, and it was it was just after the rebuilding of Europe and so, and then it has offered during these 75 years, I would say, the peaceful environment, which is in the history. If you look at the history of the European countries, the history of even of the world, it has never been so long period of peace. And this is what is not normal. I would say it's an exception, and I think it's thanks to NATO. NATO remains relevant, remains credible and necessary today. Relevant if we look at the current threats, for example, at the current challenges. NATO has played a very important role. Is still playing a very important role in order to defend Europe. It's also necessary because it's an alliance based on the Article 5. With the collective defense. And for example, if I have to take an example, Article 5 was used after the September 11th attack in the war against global war against terrorism, and it's credible and ambitious alliance. Credible because it's based on pre-positioned forces, national forces and allied forces, and it's always looking for new instruments to face the challenges, the current challenges, but also the challenges which will appear in the future. France, you know that France is a founding member of NATO. France also has decided to withdraw from the integrated military command in 1966, which is not from NATO, but from the integrated military command for some reasons, but stayed always close to the NATO members, particularly during the different, I would say, the different crises, like the Cuba crisis or Euro missiles crisis in Europe in the 80s. After that, during the post-Cold War time wars, for example, in Bosnia and Herzegovina, in Afghanistan, in Libya, France was also very involved and has deployed a lot of forces. And in 2009 decided to join again the military command. For main reasons was to strengthen, and it is really what France is stressing on stress. This is to strengthen the European defense pillar within the islands. We think that NATO, and it was said by President Macron recently, saying that NATO is stronger when the European pillar is stronger. It's we are speaking about burden sharing also, but also we are speaking for a better European pillar, more stronger, and it will make alliance or NATO much more stronger. And then we see that now. We see that now with in the current geopolitical environment, how important it is to develop a European defense.
Exactly. Colonel Deje, we live in a very complex geopolitical context nowadays. What do you think that the added value of NATO in this and such context actually is?
The added value is to, as I mentioned, it is to keep the defense system, the alliance system, cohesive. That means that without this Article 5, which protects everyone who is part of the alliance, it will not be so easy to have all the countries working side by side and to defend themselves against potential threats. Of course, it means also that everyone has to make an effort to reach this goal. And I would like to mention that France has already reached a threshold of 2% of GDP to be for these defense or for these armed forces. And then we have already deployed we are deploying almost 2,000 soldiers in eastern flank of NATO. That means either in Baltic countries or in Romania. And without that, what would happen for Europe? What will be the future of Europe? How the European countries, and in particular in the eastern flanks, what will be the situation, the current situation, if we think about the Baltic countries and so. And because of that, we think that France think that the interest of France is not only for France itself, but also it has to be shared with all the Europe, and the interest of NATO is also the interest of France. So this is really the added value of NATO.
Speaking of that, and let's stay to this question as well, how important is dialogue? Not only dialogue between the countries that are part of NATO, but also dialogue between partnering countries and NATO countries.
NATO is not looking at its own, I would say, territory it's not looking at what is encompasses, but also has developed a lot of dialogue with a lot of countries in different contexts. That means it is mainly through the Partnership for Peace, to which Serbia belongs since, I think, 2006, or like that, and it helps it helps to increase the interoperability of the forces. If I take, for example, the example of Serbia. Serbia is part of, as I mentioned, it to the so-called PFP, but also this PFP encompasses different programs like building integrity, like women peace security, like the some training. It's so-called a DEEP. It's a defense enhanced education program, for example, like a scientific program. So NATO is much broader than only a military alliance. It's a political military alliance which can help to discuss and can help to offer a forum to discuss some problems and to help. That there are some and trying now to develop some terror programs, for example, one for Serbia, one for one for Tunisia, one for it depends, in order to create a common to create common views, to create a common to develop common, I will not say policy, but yes, common views, common approach on the security on security issues.
And how do you see the evolution of Serbia's partnership with NATO?
First of all, I have to say that NATO fully respects the Serbian policy. That means military neutrality. NATO will not force Serbia to change and accept it because everything is based on a mutual respect and shared values. But as I mentioned, Serbia can profit from some programs, as I mentioned, that are DEEP all these programs which are part of the PFP. It's also a good opportunity for Serbia to discuss with some partner, and then to try to increase the relationship. It's also a possibility for Serbia to be part of some I would say military of some military exercise exchange program, and so, for example, Serbian armed forces are a lot of I think that something like 140 activities with NATO, and just with NATO, not with NATO countries, ranging from visit experts to education system in Obermallgau, for example, in Germany, and so it is a good opportunity for the armed forces, but not only, also for the defense system to benefit from what NATO is offering. But this is up to Serbia, and then to the Serbian population to decide what to do. This is a question of sovereignty. And then, you see, for example, if we look at Sweden and Finland, in particular Finland, which has a long tradition of neutrality, and Finland has decided to join NATO. It's not NATO which has forced Finland to join Finland, but to join NATO, but it's I would say a popular decision. Exactly the same with Sweden, and it was not so easy discussion, and but it was agreed by everyone. And if I look in the area, some of the countries in the Balkans, in the Western Balkans, are now part of NATO. Almost all of them. For example, Slovenia, I think it was 26. I remember Croatia, 2014, and the last one was North Macedonia, but it was not easy for each of them. Some of them was much more fluid, like Albania and Slovenia, but Croatia had problem with Slovenia about the Piran Bay, yes, and then North Macedonia, due to the name of the country, there was always some struggles, discussions, and so it's not an easy way. But the most important is not the way how they become member states, but it's a process of becoming a member state. That means a process of improving the capabilities of the armed forces, the process of even improving their own governance. And so, because, for example, if we are looking at Albania, one question was about a corruption system and so, but Albania made a big effort to overcome this issue, and then now it's been a full member of NATO. For Serbia has its own strategic decision. If I remember, I think it's somehow in the national defense strategy or something like that. It's written that the strategic aim is to become a member of the European Union, but doesn't speak about NATO. So it's up to Serbia and to the government of Serbia to decide what to do. But we can, or NATO can help them, accompany them, being with them in order for the Serbian armed forces to increase their capabilities.
What would you say are the main advantages, both for Serbia and for NATO, of partnership?
A mutual understanding. I think it's mutual understanding, mutual knowledge to show that NATO is a relevant and a credible partner. That NATO is supportive to help Serbia to make efforts in all areas, even if that of course not a political alliance. But and then for Serbia, I think to increase its capabilities and to be more and more, I would say, compatible with European / NATO system, and then we see that how many, for example, how many officers are trained in NATO countries, neighborhood countries, in the USA, in France, in Germany, or in the UK. So they benefit from that, and then we can share. And then, as I mentioned, it is mutual understanding.
If we look at the regional context as well, we were discussing the world context, but if we look at the Western Balkans countries, how do you assess the evolution these countries have undergone actually from the late 90s until today?
As I mentioned, it's the Western countries have decided most of them to join NATO. And the European Union, of course, are candidates to become member state of the European Union, which is a very positive step, I think. You know, if we look at Europe, how to say that the Balkans without Europe and Europe without the Balkans cannot be a whole without Balkans, and Balkans needs Europe. If you go very back in the history, Constantine I was a great emperor, and he came from Niš, and we have also, of course, Galer in Zajedno. So the destiny of the Balkans is in Europe, and if we want to be in Europe, we have to be part of somebody who protects. Some institution which protects our values, which protects our interest, which protects our values. So, and I think that's NATO. In one way or the other, it's maybe not to be part of NATO. As I mentioned, it's a lot of times because NATO has to be. Serbia has to be sovereign in its decision, but to benefit from that, to benefit from this neighborhood, and I think it's very important. And it's like, yes, we need the Balkans in Europe, and the Balkans need Europe.
What do you think the future is going to bring to the Western Balkans countries?
The future is to join Europe. either through different systems, be it through the in the European Union, or be it in the NATO, or in NATO and the European Union. But there is another future if you look at, for example, at the economic, the political relationship that we have. We can say that mostly 80% of our relationship are with NATO, European countries, or NATO countries, and then where are going the young Serb to study? They are going in Germany, they are going in France, they are going in the United States, many of them. Where are the parents working, or where they worked before? It was mainly Germany, Austria. So we have a lot of ties and or bonds. It's an evidence that the future of the Balkans is in Europe.
Mm-hmm. And what would be your message for the youth of Serbia, yes, but also for the youth of the Western Balkans countries?
There are a lot of messages, and when we see what happens now, we can say that the youth now is very is looking for new perspectives, and this is up to them to build it. But they have to believe in themselves, they have to believe in their countries, and they should know that they are responsible for building the future or the country in which they will live, and in which their children will live. And this, I have the chance to live in Europe, in a peaceful Europe. And as I said, it's not normal, and I hope that the youth in Serbia and the youth in Western Balkan will also have the possibility to live in a peaceful environment, in a peaceful country, region, and not only them, but also their children, and the children of the children. This is my main message, that peace, and then that they have to fight to maintain this peace. This is the most important message that can I leave.
Colonel Deže, thank you for this message, and thank you for being a part of our interview and our project.
Thank you very much.
Poštovani gledaoci i slušaoci Pola sata Demostata, gledali ste još jednu epizodu. Do našeg sljedećeg viđenja ne zaboravite da se pretplatite na naš YouTube kanal, ali i da nas naravno zapratite na Demostatovim društvenim mrežama. Moje ime je Tamara Bajčić. Do sljedećeg gledanja i slušanja. Prijetno!